Good morning, everyone. It is Wednesday, June 23rd, and this is Nadex Morning Analysis, where we take a look at some potential hotspots in the markets today where you might want to be looking, where there could be some potential volatility. We'll do a little technical analysis as well to help you analyze the markets. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me from Keep Trading Simple is Brian Caprice. Before Brian and I get into it, I do need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. So, what are we looking at today? We've got a few things to be looking at. Number one, we've got the manufacturing PMI, the Purchasing Managers Index. That is at 9:45 a.m. Eastern, so 15 minutes after the open. We're going to take a look at how that could potentially impact the Dow. So we'll be doing a quick analysis of what's in front of you right now. We've also got oil inventory reports at 10:30 a.m., so an hour after the equity markets open. Now, yesterday there was an oil inventory report. Our oil is a supply and demand driven product. We know demand is going up as we come out of the pandemic and people start getting out of their houses and driving places. And that puts demand on oil. Our supplies are depleting more rapidly than expected. We're seeing oil now up above $73 a barrel, and we've got another oil inventory report today, so we will be taking a look at oil. And then lastly, we're finally seeing a little bit of weakness in the U.S. dollar, so we'll punch over and take a look at the Canadian U.S. dollar and the pound dollar forex pairs, where we're seeing a little bit of dollar weakness. So with that, that's what we're going to be covering. Brian, I'm going to flip it over to you, and we could go through PMI
Sure.
first.
Yeah, I always like to do a summary of what's happened in the overnight because it does kind of foreshadow kind of everything else for the rest of the day. The big outliner that we see right now, there's really kind of two things. One is pound strength. You can see that the pound dollar in the last 24 hours is up 107. The pound yen is up 151. As you know, if you've been watching this, definitely been a very big pound bull, just based off of where they are, the post Brexit kind of setup and everything like that. A lot of this data is coming back, and again, this kind of goes over into kind of what we're seeing from other countries as well. But you're seeing unemployment growth hit record highs. It wasn't the highest of all time. It was only slightly slower than the record that they had in May. But as you can see right here, it's among the fastest since the series began in 1998. The market increases in output we're seeing across both the manufacturing and services sectors as the economy continued to reopening following the lockdown earlier this year. Companies responded to rising workloads by taking on extra staff at an unprecedented rate at the end of the second quarter. So it's one of those things. This is what recovery looks like. We know in the United States, we don't have enough employees right now. So we're kind of slightly behind where the pound is. But recovery is going to come across the entire world. So we need to watch out for it. So we've seen big spikes up in both those. The other thing that kind of is an outlier here is you see this dollar CAD? It's down 130 pips in 24 hours. That's big. It's over almost 2 times what its daily ATR is. You're seeing more or less dollar weakness. You're seeing the euro dollar up. The pound yen is a little bit different, but dollar Swiss down, dollar CAD down huge, Aussie dollar up over an ATR in a day. And then obviously you're seeing the pound stress step in. So it is interesting going into and we mentioned this, right? We said that we had such dollar strength for a couple days that expect to see some dollar weakness creep in. The dollar weakness crept in. And again, this is the same thing we've seen, I don't know, at this point, 6 months now, where we have a strong trend that goes into Monday, and then we tend to get reversal sometime on Tuesday leading into Wednesday, as it's kind of like the balance going back and forth again, right? Strong, weak, strong, weak. It's like the tide, right? The tide comes in and the tide goes out. It's the same kind of principle. Flash manufacturing and services should be interesting numbers. There's a slight revision expected in manufacturing. This is right around that 9:45 time is right around that 10 o'clock reversal time. So I think there's a couple things we want to look at. One is the Dow, right? So the Dow, we obviously had that really, really big push up. Yesterday we were sitting right around in this area. It was starting to pull back down again as we saw kind of the VIX kind of fluctuate. But then overall we mentioned, hey, VIX is going down. This should be good. And it did. It hit that 10 o'clock. And this reversal happened exactly at 10 o'clock. It opened to the negative, hit that 10 o'clock, and then boom, it was kind of, I'm not going to say off to the races because it didn't fly real, real high. But again, it came up much higher than the slow pivot, which again, if you look at this, there was basing, kind of one of those telltale signs that it should have actually it's there. Um,
Yep.
you expected it to kind of turn. So now, kind of advance one day, kind of flip it the other direction. We're seeing more dollar weakness out there, but now we can see that there's the pink level come up, which is where we kind of switch things to that bearish mindset. Now, again, these are harder levels to kind of catch. There is a basing level right in here, and you can see that it touched it here, and was turned, and then kind of was front run here. This is one of those levels that if we're able to kind of push up right around this, what is it, 33,977. This is one of those levels that has a potential for being a reversal area. We got about, 40 minutes until the open. We're sitting right now currently about 90 points from where that level is. And again, if we wanted to refine this a little bit, we could actually push it probably just a bit higher into that level, but somewhere around here, maybe a little bit lower, kind of where this front run occurred. And the only reason I say that is because it touched here and turned immediately. Either of these two levels with the PMI data coming out could definitely signal, hey, listen, not so great. If PMI, both those numbers are a miss to the downside, which they absolutely could be, right? That could lead this to kind of be a rollover. Or they could blow the numbers out and also lead to a rollover, because with two larger than expected numbers here, again, that goes back to the, hey, listen, they got to raise interest rates at some time. The economy is doing too good. Remember, Powell said we are still a really long way before we reach full recovery. Not everybody's in full agreement with that one. But again, it will lead to a potential rollover. So I think that's something that, again, keep it on there. The VIX right now is down quite large, right? But you're seeing that it's spiked up really kind of from where it was. It was down at 14.6 and now it's back up at 16. So I think that PMI number could be a big determining factor, as well as the dollar is kind of getting to an interesting spot. So I didn't know if you wanted to show them anything for Dow before I move on.
No, I was just going to bring that over here. There's only one thing I wanted to point out. I mean, clearly we had those comments from Bullard that drove the market lower. We made the full recovery, and we're grinding higher. What's interesting, I just wanted to point out, is that level where you're looking for to see some resistance if we were to get up there, is actually a magic number. It's right there at that 34,000 level. So it turns into an emotional level as well, and we've seen that happen before, where it sort of just wants to touch a level so that it can before it rolls over. All right, I'm going to flip it back over to you.
Yeah, and it's not a fresh, I mean, and when I say fresh, it's been hit a few times already before. So, I mean, it's tested these sellers twice. But remember, and again, this is not a crystal ball, just so everybody understands this. I mean, it could absolutely blow through the top. It's the market. It can do whatever it wants to do. But I can tell you right now that there was definitely sellers here, because if there wasn't, the price would have continued to go higher. If there was no sellers here, price would have continued to go higher as they were trying to find those sellers. So we know it's an area. We know we kind of have this kind of sellers area there. It's there. Could it blow through? I mean, could the numbers be perfect for it? Yeah. Could there be a headline that pushes it higher? Sure. And then we got to look up into the 34,300-ish area. But again, it's one of those things that with news coming up right around a reversal time, with what we've seen, I wouldn't say that this was a strong momentum higher. We all know we have problems. Interest rates are out there. I mean, there's a lot of different factors out there why this could roll back down again. And
now,
again,
the one thing that the Dow's got going for it, I mean, it's clearly off its highs that when it touched 35,000.
Yeah, it's lower than the other two.
Right, right. The Dow has definitely pulled back. We'll have to wait and see what these PMI numbers, how they come in. But meanwhile, we've got Nasdaq setting all-time highs and S&P right near them. So, it's just something else to factor into the equation.
Yeah, and
all right, let's
that's important. What you brought up real quick. I just want to add this, and then I'll jump over to the dollar. I want to go to the dollar and oil real quick, because we have a report
the
coming
oil.
up.
Oil.
Yeah. But the important thing about that is, what you just said was absolutely correct. The other two are much, much higher, kind of closer to all-time highs. The Dow is not. It's considered the weak one of the group. With that said, if everything starts to take a negative turn, is it the strong one that drops fastest, or is it the one that's already weaker? Tends to be the one that's already weaker, right? So if there is a turn and if there is a roll, the Dow is probably going to be most likely hit first. All right. Just leave that out there. Oil. So
oil above $73 a barrel. This is crazy.
Well, yeah, I'm not happy about it. Yeah, and it is funny. I did see an article this morning. I get these articles like every morning about how, obviously the oil prices, a lot are attributed back to the administration and global warming, or I guess climate change is what we have to call it now. But then what they said was the beef industry is actually more responsible than oil, but they haven't said anything about beef yet. So I was like, oh, great. God, I love my burgers and steaks. Please don't mess with my burgers
They're
and
not
steaks.
gonna come after that. That is
They
crazy.
better not. I love that stuff, right? Not that I'm happy about paying, three,
Called the
$4
food
a gallon for
chain.
gas, but
We're at the
yeah,
top of it.
I know, right? Um, Here's oil. So oil again. Yesterday we had kind of I would say like it was a moderate, right? Like these are the little situations, right? I mean, again, you got to take it all in scale, but those little big situations, like we talked about, right? The littles are pretty normal, right? Yesterday we had kind of an average size. I wouldn't say it was little. It definitely wasn't one of the big, and we had kind of more of a mirror situation. Today I would say it's probably more in the little situation. It may be a little bit big for a little, but we may have a big little situation, and we are at an area where sellers have halted this before at almost $74, right? It was up to 73.94. With that said, we had the API report yesterday. At 10:30 today, we have our crude oil inventory. The forecast is expected to be a down draw of 3.6 million barrels. The API number overnight also had the same forecast of
It,
3.6 million, but
it
the
was
actual came in at -7. So another huge miss.
miss.
The top side over, almost double. I mean, actually, I guess it is double because it's right there for double.
It is
Right?
double for
Again,
the drawdown. Yeah.
yeah. Remember though, the API number is the industry one, which the industry loves to jack the price of oil up because they make more money. We'll see what the actual U.S. based one or the governmental kind of oversight version is
Right.
looking like today. And remember, last week it was pretty close, and I think last week it came in at like 8 or something. But for the API number, you can see that we are missing a ton here. So a lot of this movement eventually here, these will not just stay green forever. Eventually, we will get a red number in there. The only thing I'm thinking today is because they're projected to miss it again, we've seen a lot of movement since that API number came out again.
Climbing
It's
higher.
raised about 92 cents already. Does it have another 92 cents in it? If we see this, I mean, will the market be surprised if it is a -7? Answer is probably not. But what I can say is missing by double, could that lead to a large breakout? The answer is yes. Okay, it could definitely be a little big situation today. Now, I will say I have two higher levels here. 74.65 is the start of one, and 76.19 is another one. If you take this scenario over here, and I'll just move it. Actually, I'll just copy it. It's probably the best thing to do, so I don't mess up the analysis. We'll take this top one. Here's where the jump is, and people are like, "Wait, $76? That would be insane." Well, I mean, here's a non-oil based day movement. Could it do the same thing with an absolutely huge number? Yeah. And these are two higher level 4-hour/daily levels of sellers. So we're kind of getting to an area where are we getting to an extreme? Will there need to be some type of a pullback in here? Remember, we just heard OPEC Plus say, in our August meeting, we're going to talk about increasing supply. Again, you increase supply, it will naturally come to the downside. The question is, will the market start to do that now, or will they do it later? Is really where it comes back
Well,
down to. So,
I got to throw in there too is they could say that, but if demand continues to keep going higher
mhm,
and oil inventories continue to get depleted, that is going to continue to put pressure to push oil price higher. And so I'm waiting to see what this drawdown number is. We know it's going to be a negative number. We know our oil inventory is going down. It's just a matter of how much is it going down. What do those stocks look like? And
mhm,
yesterday we were surprised and we saw oil punch higher. I'm really curious what this number is going to look like. So I
mhm,
would say 10:30 in the morning Eastern time, be watching oil for when that number comes out. And if you want to be able to follow the actual number getting released, I am going to drop the Daily FX link into the chat because they will post it there as soon
mhm.
as the numbers come out.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I think it's an important number. Like I said, we are not fully back up to full levels of production. And the way you look at it, I mean, are we going to stop using oil tomorrow or next week or the week after? The answer is no.
No.
The world is not going to stop using it. They have kind of, with the pipeline, there's millions of jobs. I mean, there's tons of jobs lost, tons of money lost for that one, and it is going to other people in the rest of the world. So, I mean, oil, we may not use it here, right? They may outlaw oil here, but the rest of the world is still going to use oil. It's
We're not
not going
outlawing
anywhere.
it today, and we're
Not today.
using it.
We are
We
using it
need
because
it.
people
We
love their
love our
cars.
cars. We
Yeah, we
love
love
our
our
cars.
cars. And right
So
now, everybody's traveling. Everybody wants to get the heck out of where they've been because being locked down. So the demand is it's gonna go.
and we're heading into a holiday coming up, where you're just going to see
Oh,
demand go
4th of
through the
July.
roof. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's
Independence
close.
Week.
Yep,
Independence Week is coming up because
yep,
the holiday actually falls on a Monday.
yep.
So Uh,
Yeah, so keep track of that. And again, one of the things we typically do is we'll counterbalance it. I mean, gold, we mentioned it yesterday. Gold is still doing nothing. Here's those same two channels. Gold is literally just skirting right down the middle of it. So gold is not necessarily a factor with oil right now. And we talked about the dollar. I want to end on this because I want to make sure everybody
oh
gets
yeah,
out in
let's talk
time.
about dollar weakness. We got I mean, because both of those charts, the
Yeah.
dollar CAD and the pound dollar.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, here's the dollar CAD. We talked about it. We talked about breaking 123.38, profit targets at 122.88. You guys can see we came down, we touched it, we pushed lower. We're kind of at a level right now where, again, we're getting close to another racetrack. But I will say, looking at this just real quick, this chart and really the pound is the same idea, kind of the same, setup. It's pushed down a ton in one day over a daily ATR, what it's supposed to do, and it's running into an area of buyers. Could this kind of 24 hours of weakness, could the reversal be stepping in now? Here's the dollar CAD. It's stepping in right around that 122.60 level. It's at a potential reversal level. The pound dollar is doing the exact opposite. Now, the dollar's in the second position. It's hitting a level of sellers. We know this area. And again, this is probably a little bit bigger like that. We're hitting the same level. So we have buyers in the dollar CAD stepping in. We have an area of sellers stepping in the dollar US. And then if you look at the dollar index, we're also kind of in the same scenario. We have a level right here, right, where we had a pullback and it's been tested once, tested twice at the same level. So it's kind of the same story, three different charts, one of them, being like the dollar index, where we're at a potential area where we could have some dollar strength coming back in. If not, there's one just a little bit lower down here, at least in the dollar index. Whoops. Coming in at 91.42. So a couple different setups. And again, this is a lot of dollar movement in one day. Typically, they all will run into a zone at the same time and then all reverse at the same time. And it's
Right.
that kind of that tide, that balance you're looking for. You just got to find the one that makes the most sense for you.
All right. Well, we covered a lot today. We'll run through that in a brief second. We'll do a quick recap. But if you got any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Brian is also very accessible. You can email him at support@keeptradingsimple.com. So let's just kind of do a quick little recap. And Brian, I might need your help here. One, we've got the PMI, manufacturing PMI at 9:45 a.m. Eastern. And we gave you some interesting levels to be looking at the Dow as it starts flirting with that 34,000 level. At 10:30 Eastern, oil inventory report, and I dropped the link for the daily FX calendar. You can be watching as that comes out, and we know the expectation is we're depleting some of our oil stocks. Yes, we expect those levels to be lower. The question is how much lower. And yesterday there was a big miss. Oil supply demand. If our supply keeps dropping and we know demand is going up, it will put pressure for the price of oil to go higher. Not to mention the fact that they probably want the price of oil higher because they know we're all going to be buying gasoline over the 4th of July holiday, the Independence Day holiday. So they got to jack the prices up on us before we fill up our tanks.
Exactly. Yep, that's exactly what it is.
It's a conspiracy.
Why summer gas is twice as expensive.
And then we are seeing some U.S. dollar weakness. After a very, an extended period of dollar strength, we're seeing some weakness against the CAD and the pound. And there are some interesting levels there. I think I recapped everything with that.
Yeah,
Brian
and the CAD had horrible news too. So just again, more credence. Their retail sales came out at 8:30. I forgot to cover that. It just goes back into the same thing we just mentioned about reversals.
All right. Yeah. All right. With that, Brian and I will be back tomorrow morning. We want to wish you all good luck in the markets. We'll catch you again tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.